Hi all, let's discuss the essay What is Patriarchy by Kamla Bhasin today. So she is describing how everything in world is defined by men through this essay. And she is one among the earliest feminists from India. Kamla Bhasin says that she always looked at women's oppression in a piecemeal fashion for years. And now she looks at it as a part of a system, and the system is patriarchy. She talked with her friends and academics and attended months-long workshops and formed these theories regarding the system called patriarchy. So in this essay, she looks at patriarchy as a concept which explains women's subordination. She hopes this may help activists who may have not access to books or time to go through them to get an understanding on what patriarchy is. So she says that in order to understand our own situation, we need more conceptualized work of nature, origin, and roots of patriarchy in South Asia. This essay is presented in the pattern of a question-answer style for easy understanding. So the very first question in the essay is, what is patriarchy? And she says that the word patriarchy means the rule of the father or the patriarch, or simply saying a male-dominated family. But now this word patriarchy is used to denote more generally the male domination to the power relationships by which men dominate women, and to characterize a system where women are kept subordinate in a number of ways. She says that women experience subordination in various forms in the society on a daily basis, as discrimination, disregard, control, insult, exploitation, oppression, violence within the family, at the workplace, as well as in society. So all these comes under the term patriarchy today. The second question is, how does patriarchy actually manifest itself? How we can understand patriarchy in our lives? So the first form of patriarchy that we experience is son preference. Families will be unhappy when girl children are born. So son preference is one thing. And discrimination against girls in food distribution, giving better food to the men of the house. The burden of household work are put on women and young girls. Lack of educational opportunities, lack of freedom and mobility for girls, wife battering, male control over women and girls, sexual harassment at work, lack of inheritance of property rights for women, male control over women's body and sexuality, and giving women no control over fertility and their reproductive rights. These are all forms of patriarchy. So these, if we experience these things around us, we can understand that we live in a patriarchal society. Of course, we live in a patriarchal society, right? And these experiences forms a pattern, and every woman had to struggle in one way or another against these kinds of discrimination. The feeling of subordination destroys the self-respect, self-esteem, and self-confidence of a woman, and it limits their aspirations. Every courageous act that a woman performs to assert themselves is considered as unfeminine. And these women who react against these discriminations are called shameless, as they try to step outside of the defined spaces and rules. The norms that define women inferior to men are present everywhere in families, social relations, religion, law, schools, textbooks, media, factories, offices. Everywhere we can see these norms that define women inferior to men. And as we listen to each other, as we talk with other women, we'll understand that this subordination is not only the fate of a few, or it is not because of some vicious men who exploit or oppress some women. We are up against a system, actually, a system of male domination and superiority, where women are the subordinate class. Now, the third question is, does the term patriarchy, that sum up the kind of male domination we see around us all the time? Yes, it is more than just a term. Feminists use it like a concept, and like all other concepts, it is a tool to help us understand our realities. Now she's quoting Juliet Mitchell and Sylvia Walby in this section. Juliet Mitchell is a feminist psychologist, and she uses the word patriarchy to refer to kinship systems in which men exchange their women, and to refer to the symbolic power that fathers exercise within these systems. And this power is responsible for the inferiorized psychology of women. Now, Sylvia Walby, in her work Theorizing Patriarchy, she says that, or she calls patriarchy as a system of social structures and practices in which men dominate, oppress, and exploit women. She reminds us it is important to understand patriarchy as a system. Now, Kamla Bhasin says that in some South Asian languages, husbands are called Swami, Shauhar, Pati, Malik, etc. And these words mean lord or owner. So they believe that women are men's property, and therefore they should be controlled by men. Now, the next fourth question is patriarchy the same everywhere? She says that no. In different classes, societies, and in different periods in history, the nature of patriarchy has been different. The broad principle that men are in control is the same. It is the same always. Men are in control. But the nature of this control may differ. For example, in our grandmother's time and today, it is different. It is different among the tribal women and upper class women. It is different for the women in USA as well as the women in India. We can see these type of differences, but the principle that men are in control is the same everywhere, all around the globe. Now, the next question is, what does that men control in a patriarchal society? Kamla Bhasin says that men control women's reproductive or labor power. Women face control on the number of children that they want, in using contraception, in the termination of pregnancy, etc. And in modern days, through family planning, they control women's reproduction. They also control women's sexuality. Women are obliged to provide sexual services to their men according to their needs and desires, the men's needs and desires. So in a patriarchal society, people usually restrict a women's expression of sexuality outside the marriage, but turns a blind eye towards male extramarital relations. So rape and the threat of rape is also a way in which women's sexuality is dominated in the name of shame and honor. Some keep women as sexual slaves. Rape is considered as an effective political device, a political act of oppression exercised by the members of a powerful class on members of a powerless class, which is women, in a patriarchal society. They also control women's mobility to control a women's sexuality, production, and reproduction. They limit the interaction between sexes, and a strict separation of public and private is done, and restrictions are put on leaving the domestic space. Women should not leave the domestic space. That's how they control a woman's mobility. And the next area in which the patriarchal society control a woman is the area of property and other economic resources. Property is mostly controlled by men, and they pass from one man to another, example, from father to son. Through emotional pressure and plain violence, women's rights to inherit what belonged to them are even controlled by men. The UN statistics illustrated that women do more than 60% of the hours of work done in the world, but they get 10% of the world's income and own 1% of the world's property. So we can see how property and other economic resources are controlled by men in a patriarchal society. The next question is, you earlier stated that all economic, political, religious, social, and cultural institutions are by and large controlled by men. Can you elaborate? So she says that the family, religion, media, and law are the pillars of a patriarchal system and structure because these are controlled by men. Family, religion, media, and law are said to be the pillars of a patriarchal system and structure because they are controlled by men. We can take the example of a family. So the first pillar is the family. The first pillar of a patriarchal system is family. The institution of family as the basic unit of the society is the most patriarchal idea. Men's superiority and women's subordination are taught in the families, and they are reinforced by families to the next generation. Now, moving on to the second pillar, which is religion. Most modern religions are patriarchal. They consider male authority as supreme. The feminine power that has existed before has been weakened. Almost every religion considers women to be inferior, impure, and sinful. They have created double standards of morality and behavior. Marriage, divorce, and inheritance are controlled by religion in some places. Now, moving on to the third pillar, which is the legal system or the law. The legal system is patriarchal in most countries. In South Asia, all legal systems consider men as the head of the household, the natural guardian of children, and as the primary inheritor of property. They are patriarchal in their attitudes and in their interpretation of the law. Most productive work done by women are not recognized or paid properly. Women's contributions to the economy are considered as shadow work and is completely discounted by men. Housework is not evaluated at all. Now, the political systems and institutions are also controlled by men. They are dominated by men. Even if some women do assume important political positions, they have to function according to the structures and principles laid down by men. The next pillar is media. Media is an important tool in the hands of these upper class men to propagate class and gender ideology. Media has got a very important role in the stereotypical and distorted portrayal of women. For example, violence against women in films, male superiority and female inferiority being repeated constantly through media, sexist advertisements, underrepresentation of women in the media. So this is how the pillars of a patriarchal system, family, religion, media, and law, are controlled by men.